The children in the lift must mind those doors, mind those doors, mind those doors. Little things on the lift must mind those doors all day long.
I suffered for a long time with mental health. This is real life.
Yeah.
This is real, and it's something that everyone in this room is going through. Yeah, no, what I do, mate, I go to the pub and I'm sitting there with my mates and I've got 6 pints and I don't really want to go to the man. Yeah, no, I was really emotional last night. I sat at home crying with the wife. The situations that we were in helped me as a person. Now, should I have dealt with them better? Yeah.
So I'd like to welcome today Martin McCarthy from Our Mental Health Matters, and Our Mental Health Matters will be really supporting the lift industry mental health charter moving forward. Martin will be providing the courses for the charter for the companies who are part of it, as long as we can get the support and the funding for the charter. And that's why we're doing the YouTube channel. So it'd be great if people subscribe, like, whatever you need to do on YouTube. I don't know, it's the first time I've done this, so it'd be great if you can do that. And obviously Martin's joining us today. He'll be joining us on a monthly basis, and we'll be doing different themes each month. Anxiety, we will do this month, and we'll do depression and PTSD and different things that Martin is qualified in and will talk about. But in today's episode, we'll talk more about Martin and what led him up to forming the company Our Mental Health Matters. So what brought you there?
Okay, so I launched the company in 2020. The reason I launched Our Mental Health Matters was because I'd suffered for a long time with mental health. The first time I really remembered it, I was about 14. And so in 2020, I'd kind of got to a stage where I was at probably my lowest point. And so I wanted to understand what was going on in my head and in my mind. And I really wanted to understand just why I was going through what I was going through. And I'm an inquisitive person. And so once I got started, I really started to drill down into what was taking place and why and the reasoning and so on and so forth. And so because I was helping myself, I then thought, do you know what? I'd like to help others. And so I set up Our Mental Health Matters because it was never about really going and helping hundreds and thousands of people. It was always about if I could just change one person's life, that would be good. And so that's kind of why I did it. And so, yeah, I really started to educate myself on the different things that take place when I was suffering with anxiety or I was suffering with my depression at the time. And so I really wanted to kind of to get into the realms of why it was happening, understanding, is it normal, which it is, and then how can we go on and help others. And so I set up the business with the words Our Mental Health Matters. When I used to go to counselling back in the day, or I'd go and see a therapist, I always felt alone. I always felt like it was my issue and not an issue that I was sharing with others. And so...
Is that because you was... did you feel embarrassed by it? Or
originally, yeah. No, I think anyone with mental health often runs away from it. I think we kind of don't admit it. We're in denial, is the terminology of it. But when I was kind of going to speak with people, I kind of just felt like there would always be questions of how do you feel today? And, you know, why do you feel like you think like that? And so I just felt alone. And so when I set the business, like I said, I wanted it to be our mental health because I'm on the person's journey, they're on my journey. And it just brings a whole realism to the situation of kind of what's taking place. Because as a mental health sufferer, we think we're weird. We think we're normal. We think the thoughts that we're going through and the emotions and the behaviours that we do are just singularly to us. Yeah. Which, once we really start to learn about how often this happens and how normal this is, it's something that's shared by a lot of people.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And you say you sort of suffered from an early age.
Yep.
How early was early then?
I remember it really into the early part of my teens. And that's when I started to notice it. I was doing things like flicking lights on and off, which kind of led to an OCD. And it was purely and simply because I was fearful at the time, and I can't really put my finger on the situations because there was lots of them going on at the time. My mum wasn't too well, and I remember being quite a spiritual person, let's say. I was praying a lot, and I was sort of saying, if she's going to be okay, then I'll do whatever it takes to kind of let her get through that. And I think from there, it then just became something that I'd done. If I then didn't do it, and something went wrong, I would blame myself.
Was you doing it a lot then?
I was doing it a lot. I would flicking lights on and off, and that's what I say. I always remember my parents kind of shouting out to me, "What are you doing? Stop doing what you're doing!" And I'd be like,
I do that to my boys.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. And I knew I was, but it was the denial of the situation that I was in. So you kind of drill back as far as that, and then obviously that was teenage years. So I was going through school. And that's quite pressurised. You look at the certain stages of our lives and you think, God, there's massive changes that go on. And I'm a father of 3. I've got a son at the moment who's moving from primary school into secondary school. Okay. And the challenges is huge. And so I remember those days. And I remember going from like being a big fish in a small pond to a small fish in a big pond and thinking, oh my God. And so it probably started before I recognised it. But I just certainly recognise it in my teens, and then it started to kind of just control my life a little bit, where I was a footballer at the time, and I was trying to kind of go through certain things, and I remember things like tying my shoelaces a number of times. I remember sort of blessing myself, for the want of a word, a load of times. I remember going back and doing things constantly. I remember standing on cracks in the road and feeling uncomfortable and then having to go back and do it again.
Really?
Yeah, I remember kind of doing a lot of this. And so having learned what it was, obviously that was OCD for me at the time. So it was obsessive compulsive disorder. It's something that I obsessed about, and it just made me feel like I had to compulsively do something in order for things to be okay. So as I moved on in my life, I kind of grew into the body of someone who was a mental health sufferer. So I kind of, I had my teenage years, and then I had my, lads holidays, and then I did lots of stuff. And then I eventually got married. And all of it was still there. It was just kind of being masked in the background. And I had a really high pressurised job. I worked for a company, a sales company, and I was extremely good at what I did, for being totally honest. And it kind of drove the problem, because with sales became targets, and with targets became pressure, and with pressure became no real escape. And the only escape I really had was going back in and doing the same thing again. And so I never really got my head up. I never really understood the problems that I was facing. And so eventually you just get to a stage where you just crash. You absolutely crash, and then you have to deal with the situation. And sometimes it's quite sad, because people don't crash and then get to re-educate themselves about what goes on. And so our Mental Health Matters, I just really want to catch people at an early stage and just explain to them that sometimes what we go through is normal. Okay, it really is normal. It's very, very common. When I go back to, I did lots of group therapy, and the group therapy helped me a lot. But it helped me a lot to understand that maybe my problems weren't as big as a few other people's, because when I listened to their problems, I was like, wow. But then they probably listened to mine and went, wow. Yeah. And so there's no one outdoes the other, but it just made me understand that what I'm going through is normal, because it might not be the same circumstance as that person, but that person is going through something that starts with the mind, the brain, the thoughts, the processes, and then it materialised, and it was stopping them doing certain things, and mine was stopping me doing certain things. And like I say, as I got older, you feel like you're getting better, but you're never not getting better, but you never really it never goes away.
You manage it better.
You manage it better.
I think as you get older, you manage it better. I think, from my experience, it's always there. Whether it's depression or sleep issues or whatever they are, they're there under the surface, and it's just how you manage them. And then it's only my opinion.
And
then certain things bring them out worse than others. I
always say to people when I speak to them, everyone thinks life should be like a flat line. That's a good life, right? But the reality is we are going to have small ups and downs, and that's good, right? We're happy with that. What we don't want is huge ups, huge downs, huge ups, huge downs. And so people kind of go to me, they go, I feel all right at the moment. And I often say to them, brilliant, but understand there may be that dip we have again. But understand it's normal, right? Because with that dip eventually comes the flat line, which then becomes an up. And so it's to not expect that mental health goes away, because it doesn't. We learn to treat it, like you said, we learn to manage it. And it goes back to that old analogy about the dog. The dog will always do what the dog does. So when you get a dog for the first time and it goes...
Like my dog, that
like,
I keep on trying to push out a shot.
Yeah, but listen, lovely. But the dog will naturally be a puppy, and it will see another dog and it will run to that dog, right? And you go, oh, it shouldn't have done that. And you go, but it's what it knows, right? We do what we know. But we then train the dog the right way to not do what we don't want it to do. And so we have to train ourselves in order to manage what's going on. But I just say to people all the time, please don't be unrealistic in the situation, because you're never not just going to get away from mental health. Like, mental health will always be there in a small way or a big way. And that's okay, right? It's okay, because it's part of who we are.
Yeah. But do you not find that this come up in another discussion, and I know what I'm like. Do you not find you're great at giving it advice, but are you good at taking it?
No. Funnily enough, I was talking to someone this morning, and they were saying, it's brilliant advice you've given me, and I should know this because I've given it to other people. And I say, yeah, but we're always great at giving advice, but receiving it, because sometimes I want to help you, but it comes back to that I don't always help myself, right? And that's probably the trait of the person, or the situation that we find ourselves in. But we're just here to help others, right? And so we try to always give good advice to people because we think it's what's right, okay? And so we should often accept that we're not always going to get it right. And that unfortunately is the stem of some of mental health, because we're looking for perfection. We're looking for always being right.
And that's true. I agree to that. You're always, I remember many a times doing emails and things like that, and someone had emailed me something, and I think, I've got to respond to that. I haven't actually got to respond to it.
No.
So you'll write something back, and then they'll write something back, and you think,
it's a
I've
choice.
got to. Yeah,
it's a choice. And you know what? It's a choice. Like everything in life is a choice. But sometimes we feel like we have to do things because then what would people think about us? Okay. And that's the trigger for a lot of mental health. And that's where I said earlier on about the judgment. Because if someone asks you to go and pick them up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you say no, you'll feel terrible because you'll go, I should have gone. But then maybe by going to get that person, you're causing yourself issues. But what we do is we get through I'll just deal with myself later on, because we don't want ever to have let someone down, and we don't want them to have judged us for not doing it, when it's okay to say no.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to say no. And that's where, like I say, when I go back to me, that's where a lot of my problems came, because it was never really issues about me. It was always issues about other people, that I didn't want something to happen to them. And even up to like 2018, 2019, when I really hit rock bottom, I'd kind of buried my head in the situation of what was going on around me because I didn't want to upset others.
How was your family with that? When you was at rock bottom?
Yeah.
How was your family?
Amazing. My wife in particular was amazing. I don't think I probably would have been here talking today if it wasn't for my wife. Also for my family. I've got quite a close-knit family, and so we're very supportive of each other. But we all, at certain stages, have suffered with mental health. My mum, my sisters, my nieces, my nephews, everybody. Because do you know what? That's how normal it is. But at the time, I'd kind of just got to a stage where I didn't want to admit it. And all I was doing was I was working. And then I was reflecting on what I was doing. So to give you an example, I was going to work, I was doing like 15, 16-hour days because I was chasing money, because I was in a sales environment and you can earn commission. And I was doing really well. So I was putting success down as earning money.
Right.
When in reality, I wasn't then seeing, at that time, my first child growing up. And so then when I'd sit down and get 5 minutes for reflection, I'd feel horrible towards myself, because I'm thinking, I'm supposed to be a dad, but I'm not doing what a dad should do.
Yeah.
But then Monday came again, and then I'm back into the grindstone.
There's probably a lot of people, I would imagine, a lot of mothers, fathers who've been in that position where they missed sports days, they missed things from their kids, and
And that's a lot of the issues.
Yeah.
When I talk to people, they say to me, I've missed this and I've missed that. And again, not saying I raise you, but I say, well, this is what I did. And you know what? It always comes back to, what do you define as success? What's happiness? You know, we go back to these big circles. At the time, not now, but at the time, I prioritised money. And so I prioritised money, and then what fell by the wayside? My relationships at home. And I kind of got to a stage where things just weren't working out at work. Okay, and I was then going to have to change my job, and I just thought, this is all I've known for 20 years.
Yeah.
What am I now going to do? And so I felt like I was going to be a failure to my family, you know. And again, instead of maybe going and talking to my wife and talking it through, I didn't. In my mind, it was telling me what was happening, which obviously, as we know, it became irrational, it became catastrophic. But I'd got to a stage where we went on holiday, and I just thought, you know what, not that I don't want to be here anymore, but I just think your lives would be better without me. Not in that way of maybe, you know, taking my own life or anything like that, but just coming away from that situation, because I didn't want them to be unhappy, and I felt like I was delivering unhappiness to them. And so I just got to a stage where I crashed. I went into depression for a long period of time. And then my wife and my family started to help me out of it. And that's when there was something within me that just went, right, you're never, ever going to do that to them again. You're never going to do that. And the only way to get out of this scenario is to understand why you got in it.
Wow.
And so that's what happened to me. And so that's great self-reflection, right? But like I said at the start, sometimes people aren't as lucky, maybe, to be in my situation where my family helped me out and my friends helped me out. And so that's why I always want to be that person that would pick up a phone at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, will drive to someone's house to make sure they're okay, go and see them. It might be in a circumstance where they're struggling, because it's that great saying, I'd rather listen to your talk than have to talk at your eulogy, which is you're not here no more, and then I have to talk at your funeral, which is a terrible thing. So there's certain things that I live by, really.
On the subject of therapy, going back to that, how many sessions did they do? What was the context? So people who are considering sort of therapy, they might be, I don't know, they might be watching now. What was the format of it? Did you sit like one-to-one in front of someone? And what's the general layout? Was it like 6 sessions, 10 sessions?
Yeah.
Did you pay for that?
Yeah, there's a whole magnitude of different things that are on offer to people. And again, it comes back to what is going to work for the person. But so I originally started going and seeing a counsellor. It was just a one-to-one. And so you basically paid her for each session, and they would say to you, well, I think we need to do 12, we need to do 6. £50 a session, £40 a session. I can't remember, it was quite a while ago. But that's what you're paying, and I paid it. Now, you can go to the NHS, the doctor, and they can prescribe you to go to the NHS, and you can go and work with these companies. But the only thing was, and I think talking to people, they're in agreement of this. You know, the NHS is stretched, right? They're doing a wonderful job. But you're at crisis point, and so you're reaching out for help, and sometimes it's, we'll get back to you within 28 days. You might not have 28 minutes, 28 seconds, 28 hours. You're crisis and you need help now. And so I reached out and I went to a counsellor, and then I joined a charity that was a mental health charity, and they said, look, come along and do some group sessions. And so I did that once a week. I just went along and sat for 2 hours, and there would be someone in the room who was qualified to talk to you and the group about what you were doing. But again, it then, in my head, not saying this is the truth, but it became something along the lines of, you know, we were more interested in maybe, I don't want to say gaining donations because that's going to sound really bad, but it was more about
promoting their business?
Promoting the business, and kind of, you know, what can you do for us, rather than help me. And so I'd kind of, and that's not a negative in any way. This was just my understanding of my situation at the time. And so I just thought, I don't feel I'm getting any better, and I don't feel I'm getting any support. And when I was going there, a lot of the times with counsellors, they say to you, so how do you think you're going to get better? And this is the realism of the situation. I don't pay you to tell me, how do you think I'm going to get better? I'm paying you because I need help. And so I don't want to put it down to, you know, we want to do a 12-week course, because how does anyone know if it's going to take 12 weeks? How does anyone know if it's going to take 12 minutes, 12 hours? And so I just wanted to get to a stage where we present courses, we present facts, statistics to people, so that people can then make their own takes on certain things. So it's not me telling, it's me showing, it's me discussing, it's me, speaking. And then their interaction then moves us on to the next section. And so then people can go, do you know what? This is real life.
Yeah.
This is real, and it's something that everyone in this room is going through, and everyone in this UK is going through, and everyone in this world is going through, because the statistics are showing it's massively normal what people go through. But it's always that first initiation to go, I need help. Because for years, people were saying to me, are you okay? And I was going, yeah, of course I'm okay.
It's that mask again.
And for males,
Yeah.
it's that masculinity.
Yeah.
For ladies, sometimes we don't want to come across as weak. And so we just go, nah, I'm all right. Nah, what are you talking about? No, I'm fine.
Yeah,
right? And if you
yeah.
come from a cultured background, and we say this about men all the time, and it's not pigeonholing anybody, but more often than not, people go to me, yeah, no, what I do, mate, I go to the pub, and I'm sitting there with my mates and I've got 6 pints and I don't really want to go to the man. Yeah, no, I was really emotional last night. I sat at home crying with the wife. And you go, no, because that's not normal in the normal world of old, maybe, where people admit their true feelings. But I think women have a greater circle. So women can go and have a glass of wine or whatever, and they can say, do you know what, I'm just not feeling it. And women seem to have that friend circle probably a bit better than men do.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah.
And so for a guy, or for anybody, it's just admitting I do actually have an issue and I need help. And so the first port of call is to go to your doctor, and the doctor would say, right, you've got these options. Or you go and you speak to someone and you pay or you don't pay, however it goes. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to go out into communities, into societies, and go, look, I'm putting on courses. I'd like you to understand it. And the courses are free. Right? So then people turn up, okay? They start to learn about what they're doing, what's going on, and then they can start to really delve into it if it's a subject matter that really interests them, okay? And so that's what I wanted to try to do. And then obviously we'd reach out to businesses, because I'm not going to say that my business caused my issues, because it started when I was a kid, but I don't think it helped. And I don't think the situations that we were in helped me as a person. Now, should I have dealt with them better? Yeah. Is it the company's fault? No, of course it's not. But I just don't think we put a lot of help in for people to go and get support if they truly need it.
Yeah. So what we'll do now, see, people may say we've got a pool table behind us here, and we've got a dartboard up there. And what we're going to do, we're going to have a 1-game challenge.
Yep.
Self and mine, just to break things up a little bit.
Yep.
And then when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the future for Our Mental Health Matters, and the type of things that our Mental Health Matters delivers.
Wonderful.
Yeah, brilliant.
Let's get it on.
So welcome back. We've had our 1-game pool challenge. Martin chose pool, didn't choose darts. Got to let you know I won, by the way, as you may have seen. He did win the warm-up, but he hustled me a little bit, to be fair. He was better than what he let on.
Yeah, misspent youth.
Yeah, definitely better than what he let on. So,
proof's in the pudding, you won, I didn't.
Yeah, definitely better than what he let on. So what we're going to touch on now, you'll have to excuse the Ted in picture, if he is in picture, he won't leave me alone, so we'll have to put up with that. What we're going to touch on now, we're going to touch on Martin's business, Our Mental Health Matters. Our Mental Health Matters is supporting the lift industry mental health charter, and obviously, as I said, we're looking for Our Mental Health Matters to provide courses across the companies once it's financially able to do so. And Martin's not, there's lots of things Martin does are free of charge, but we need to support all businesses in this as well. So we spoke about your journey of how you got to Our Mental Health Matters. So what does the future, what does Our Mental Health Matters do generally as courses? Because I sort of know the answer to that in a way, because we met probably a couple of years ago now, and Martin come into one of the businesses I was working in and provided courses, done 12 courses, one a month, and they went down a storm.
Yeah.
You know, people in the businesses absolutely loved them.
Yeah.
They really enjoyed them. And where do you see the business going? More of that, or?
Yeah, I think as the business grows, we're working with various different companies. We're going in and we're delivering courses, and I think it's liked by lots of businesses purely and simply because we don't really have independent departments that can deal with mental health issues. And what you're trying to probably see a lot more nowadays is HR departments getting more involved in it, and it comes back to the age-old question of, are they qualified enough? And that's not saying it's a negative or a positive, but it's a lot of pressure to be put on somebody if you don't really understand the ins and outs of someone with mental health. So in which direction are we going? We want to deliver more courses. We'd like to get out into more workplaces, purely and simply because your staff need help. And as a business, you have a duty of care really to your staff to be able to provide help for them. And often businesses can't provide help because they don't know how to. And so that's why when we go in and we work with people, we're able to give help. We're able to give it in the form of courses. We're able to give it in the form of one-to-one individual appointments. We're able to do group sessions. We're able to do roadmaps. So we go into different companies, and if you've got 4 branches, 5 branches, we'll go to those branches and we'll give everyone the same opportunity to learn. And then from there, what tends to happen is that from a business perspective, their overheads actually get less because the amount of time that people are spending off sick or not being able to be in the office gets less because we're educating them about what's happening in their lives. So yeah, we'd like to deliver more courses for our mental health matters. I'd like to get into more schools. I'd like to kind of get into more sporting environments because, you know, it's something that's going to affect a lot of people. And so it's not just, oh, well, we'll do this industry or we'll do that sector, But when you originally spoke to me about the lift industry and having worked in the lift industry, like you said, with the companies you've been involved in and some others, it's the same principles apply, you know, and these people that are working long hours and these people that are working at height and these people that are kind of doing lots of stuff where they're having to do lots of travelling, it's a stressful environment, and with stress comes kind of anxieties, and with anxiety comes depressions and various other aspects like we've spoke about. And so for us, for our mental health matters, we just want to work with as many people as possible because we can help people. We've got evidence of it, and you know, long may that continue. But again, it's about being liked. Because once we come into a company, we're there to work with the company as well as the employees. Because if a company can show that it's a mental health champion company that actually cares about its staff, then it gets the buy-in back from the staff as well. And we've seen that over a period of time.
And I thoroughly enjoyed the courses, and I know that everyone who was part of the businesses that I worked for at the time, I was managing, they thoroughly enjoyed it. And you know, you're a very relatable person.
Yep.
And
thank you.
Yeah, I think they really work. And, you know, any courses that you do deliver within a lift company, you know, if it's possible, you know, with other things going on, whatever else, but if it's possible, I'm quite happy to be part of them as well, if it helps in any way, because you've got a perspective from the lift industry. Sometimes that's not always possible. But like you said, you know, regardless of what industry you're working in, you know, mental health is mental health, really. I just know from my own perspective, the lift industry, there's many different aspects of it. You know, there's pressures from an office side, from an engineering side, and I just, you know, like the channel to highlight that. There'll be other people coming on talking about the lift industry as well.
But you're right, because if we individualise it and we say, what is it that the courses can help people do? So you take individual subject matters with mental health. It could be anxiety, it could be depression, PTSD, OCD, ADHD, postnatal depression. Could be something like phobias. You know, there are lots of courses that we do. There's nearly 50 that we can offer that individually look at a subject matter, because again, someone might suffer with mental health and they might have anxiety but they haven't got PTSD. They might have anxiety but they don't experience depression yet. And so the courses individually talk through each individual subject matter, because the more information we can give the persons or the person on that, the better it can be. But that doesn't just stop with the individual subject matter. So like you said, having come from a sales environment, I know that working in an office brings its own challenges. Now that doesn't mean that it's a mental health disorder as such, but it could be stress. It could just be pressure. It could just be the fear of failure. It could be anything. And so every department will have its own pressures. And so what we do is we go in and work with them on an individual basis and as a collective group, and we're able to then kind of help them.
That's brilliant.
Deal with certain things. So listen, there's lots we can do for lots of companies. As you've said in the past, we've got some really good feedback from businesses, and I think hopefully it's because we're real and we're personable, and it's private as such, because if you feel, as a business, sometimes you have to go to your HR departments and then they put you in contact with someone else, and people in the office see it. Whereas if it's a collective group course, whether you're suffering badly or whether or not you're just suffering or whether you're not suffering at all, you can actually show that you're available to be spoke to.
So the courses are educational, really.
100%.
So you're not there to counsel someone or anything like that. It's purely to educate people. And what I noticed when we were part of the courses is there was people who actually come on the course who weren't actually suffering from what they considered mental health issues, but they was there to educate themselves, and that's what's good. So, if Martin was to come into your business and do a course, you don't necessarily have to have people there who are sufferers from mental health. You can have people there who just want to learn about it. They might have a family member. And one of the things I wanted to do, obviously I'm not with that business now, but at the time I wanted to give the opportunities of the family members to come in as well. So I wanted to expand the courses out to include some of their family. So obviously that never happened, but there's no reason why something like that couldn't happen in a business in the future. Yeah,
well, I think for our mental health matters, it's preventative. Okay, so we don't want to be reacting after the event has happened. Yes, of course, sometimes we have to deal with that because obviously people have gone through certain scenarios. But I think with us and the courses and what we're trying to achieve is to be preventative. And like you said, if you've got people that don't necessarily suffer currently with mental health, or, somebody that maybe has got family members that suffer, they can come along and they can learn and they can educate themselves and they can see the signs, the triggers, the traumas that we kind of go through that then kind of spiral out of control, or, hopefully never does do that. But if it was, then you can see the signs. So I think from our perspective, what we want to try to do is to get everybody in, teach them, look at certain things. Education is a great way of being preventative. So if we can stop people suffering earlier, the better. And that goes back to the conversation about the schools. How early is early? And so in businesses, we just need to be able to be seen to be a company that has got a duty of care for its staff, and that it actually cares about its mental wealth, so its mental health well-being,
and their wealth.
And the wealth of the listen. And again, we talk about it, and this is where we come at it from many different levels. From a business perspective, if you've got staff that are suffering, then they're not working at 100%. And if they're not working at 100%, then the output isn't going to be what we want it to be. So instead of, not saying companies do this, but instead of getting rid of staff, why don't we work and fix them? Because we employed them in the first place because they're good at their jobs. Let's help them to get back to the person that we thought they were. And the courses do that. And whether it's one-to-one, whether or not it's a group session, whether or not it's a whole office session, we can cover that. And like I said, we can cover many topics, but it's just about having the know-how of being in that position once upon a time and being someone that is hopefully likable, and someone that they believe is trustworthy. And like I say, I've worked with businesses. I've still got employees of those businesses that I don't work with still contacting me, and I will still help them to this day. And there's no financial benefit for me, but like I said when I first started, I started our Mental Health Matters to help people. And if it was one person, great. If it can be 50, great. If it can be 1,000, great. 100,000, listen, then we're creating the legacy. And I think that's what really our Mental Health Matters was started for. But I just like helping people, and hopefully people can be helped by me.
Well, that's great. Well, hopefully people can see that on there. I think we'll close it there. You'll see more from Martin again. Martin's coming up on another episode talking about anxiety. We'll be specifically talking about that topic.
Yep.
And yeah, obviously hit the subscribe, join the channel, and I hope you enjoyed it.